Hey, good morning, everyone. We're continuing with our study of Ajahn Sucitto's book, Pāramī, which if you're here local we've got a box full of books to give away. And if you live afar, then it's available on the Amravati website in the UK. You can do it as a download or read it online there. So the Pāramī are 10 beautiful qualities of the mind that we want to develop. And we've done an introduction, sort of talking a bit about the first three, and today's going to be an emphasis on the third one, which in Pali is called Nekkhamma, and the translation for that is letting go or simplifying. And it's interesting, Ajahn Sucitto starts the book starts the chapter, it's chapter 3, by saying that it's the path to awakening. And I sort of went, wait a minute. The Buddha said the Noble Eightfold Path is the path to awakening. And all of my teachers are very cautious, when people try and pull one factor out of there, like mindfulness, and say, that's all I have to do. And they're going, no. It's an eightfold path. You need all 8 factors. So I thought I'd look a little more closely into this. So the first step of the Noble Eightfold Path is right view. And that's basically having the view of the Four Noble Truths, that there is suffering in life and that it's caused by desire. So right away we can look at, okay, letting go is involved here, because if desires cause suffering, then we want to let go of suffering. So there's letting go in the first step of the Noble Eightfold Path. The second is right intention. So that's like non-harming, kindness. So that's letting go of harmful speech, thoughts, and actions. So it's involved in the second step of the Noble Eightfold Path. Next is right speech. So we want to let go of harsh or gossipy or false speech. So it's involved in speech. Same thing with action, right action. We want to let go of wrong action. So it's involved there. Livelihood is having a job that doesn't harm self or others. So again, letting go of a livelihood that is harmful. The next step on the Noble Eightfold Path is right effort. And the second effort is letting go of the hindrances when they arise. So letting go, there you go, it's in right effort. Next is right mindfulness. I guess we can see it in there. Right mindfulness is directing our mind, remembering the teachings and directing our mind to being aware of the present moment. But we want to be focusing on wholesome things. We don't want to be focusing on cracking a safe or robbing a bank or something. So I guess you could say we're letting go of those kinds of things. And right samadhi is stilling the mind, focusing the mind. So I guess you could say there we're letting go of diversity and coming into sort of a single focus. So we can see that it's quite involved. I think it's still not good to say it's the path, because the Noble Eightfold Path is the path, but it's certainly intertwined there amazingly. Yeah. And Ajahn Sucitto said that this letting go or simplifying takes the mind to a more stable place where it can gain access to great ease and clarity. And simplifying, like all the other paramis, it depends on and supports wisdom. So what is wisdom? Wisdom is following the middle way, like not excess and not deprivation, but in the middle. And it also wisdom to realize that this is something that evolves. It's not something that we sort of try and force ourselves to do. That's extremely important, that it's not a forced thing. It's you understand the dangers or the harms of not doing it, and then you gradually come around to it. It's not something that you're forcing yourself into. Simplifying is the opposite of the assumption that getting things leads to happiness, which supports the idea, if we have that idea that we have to get things to be happy, then that's supporting the idea that we're lacking in some way or insecure or inadequate. And that it is our senses, our sense experiences that will provide us with fulfillment in life. So if we really want freedom from the suffering our minds create, we need to challenge this assumption of where happiness comes from. And remember that it's really important to remember this, that getting pleasure from the senses remains a natural inclination of our mind until we realize something more fulfilling, which we gain through cultivating our mind. Because this path is all about happiness. Remember, the Dalai Lama wrote that book called The Art of Happiness, right? So this path is all about happiness. So until we've developed some happiness out of our meditation practice, we're not going to be letting go of happinesses that come from the sensory world. And the happiness that we're going to eventually cultivate through our meditation practice, the good thing about it, it's non-harming. And and it's a sort of a more reliable, longer lasting happiness. So cultivating our mind gradually eliminates this sense of lack, leading to a sense of contentment. And doing this gradually extends to letting go of our attachment to having like a certain status in life, having certain opinions, or to the sense of, some kind of a solid, unchanging self. Then Ajahn Sucitto goes on to talking about bhava, which means becoming. And this is one of the steps in dependent origination. And dependent origination is the teaching of the Buddha on causality. Like this is, what's happening right now is because of conditions from the past. So that's dependent origination sort of explains that causality, the steps in that causality. And one of those steps is called bhava, or becoming. So becoming is the internal push to be a certain someone, to have a certain status in life, a certain role in life, have certain accomplishments, like being the best. And it's very much supported by sensuality. For example, believing we're someone special when we possess a lot of stuff, expensive stuff or whatever. Or we can become a believer in something and form an identity out of a certain religious view or a certain political view. And we can end up getting fundamentalist about this. Like, this is true, like this is the right way. And everyone else who doesn't share this view, like there's something wrong with them or they're deluded. And fundamentalism can really give people a strong sense of belonging, belonging to this tribe of the just and true. And it comes from an inability to handle the fluidity of just being open to life's experiences. And this can apply to our meditation practice too. Being the best meditator or being the one living the simplest life. When the mind gets trapped into becoming, we get swept into wanting to be something we sense we aren't, yet could be or should be. And then we can get depressed, believing that we're not good enough, without questioning, how good do we have to be at peace? And being at peace doesn't mean that there isn't room for improvement. But our interest in development can come from a wholesome wish for peace, contentment, the good qualities, these Pāramī, and self-acceptance, rather than being driven by a need to be a somebody. Now, reversing this energy of wanting has three parts: intellectual part, an emotional part, and an energetic part. So the intellectual part is understanding the temporary nature of attachment to things and understanding the benefit of letting go. The emotional part is acceptance of the mind state, like getting in touch with and accepting that it's there, this mind state that underlies the wanting. And Ahimsa talked about this a lot on Tuesday. With the other book that we're studying, but this talk today and that talk on Tuesday really mesh. And then the energetic part is, if we steady our heart to directly meet the waves of experience, we will feel the energy that comes with our reaction to that experience, to whatever sensory contact that we're having. Are we feeling offended, needed, appreciated, annoyed, happy? Like, what's that energetic experience that's happening? And it's from this that a sense of self starts to arise, stories of who I am. I'm one who likes this. I'm a person who doesn't like that. I'm a person who wants this, or I don't want that. I want things to be this way, not that way. Or I'm this kind of person with this kind of status. So Ajahn Sucitto goes on to give about 6 different ways to work with these 3 aspects of letting go or simplifying. So first, when a want arises, when you're aware that you're wanting, and wanting, remember, can be to have something you don't have or to push away something that's there in your face and you don't want. So you can ask, do I really need this? Satisfying a want is a very impermanent act. As soon as one want is addressed, up pops another. So you want to look at what is the emotion that's behind that want. And Ahimsa really talked about this a lot on Tuesday. So is it boredom or a feeling of emptiness? So maybe doing an act of generosity or kindness or brightening the mind with meditation would be a substitute for getting this temporary satisfaction of the want. And this could be a longer lasting way to address the emotion that's present. Next, we can reflect what I get in terms of mind states. Like, what is the quality of our mind? Like anger, happiness, boredom, sadness, depression. That's our mind states. What do I get in terms of mind states is the result of how I act. So, being aware of the connection between those two. What is really necessary to live, and how much do we want to commit to that? So the mundane necessities of life, we need a job to pay for shelter, food, clothing, medical care, and then whatever the wanted extras are for ourselves and our family. So where do we need to be on this sliding scale of what you feel is necessary? And I know now I made this decision before I met the Dhamma, so I didn't know anything about Buddhism or meditation at this time. But in my life, my father died very shortly after his retirement. You know, when he had this retirement plan, he just had this simple dream of driving across Canada, camping across Canada, so seeing the country. And that never happened because he got cancer and died very soon after retirement. So I had this idea, you can't wait till you're retired to do things. Like, you got to do it now because you could die. And so I only worked 4 days a week initially, and then cut that down to 3 days a week, so I could have sort of a more balanced life, be able to spend more time in nature, camping, canoeing, hiking, things like that. And thank goodness, because my husband did the same thing. It happened to my father, and he didn't even wait for retirement. He died before, a bit before retirement. So anyway, what do we need in life? Do we need to sort of work so hard to, live in a palace and never have time with our family, or time for our meditation practice or whatever? Okay, next, Ajahn Sucitto talks about, rather than focusing on the impulse of the moment, focus on the shift of energy that gets our heart pumping or our thoughts whirring away. And he says to cool the body down. And so basically what he was talking about was the holding technique. And I've talked about the holding technique ad nauseum. If you don't know about it, then it's in lesson 3 under the basic teachings on the website. And you have to go to download the entire PDF. It's not in the short little description. And there's anyway, this is, I think, one of the most important things I've learned since I've discovered Buddhism is this holding technique. So if you don't know about it, go and read about it. Anyway, when we do this holding technique, then the energy dissipates, showing us that the nature of things is to arise and cease. Because when they're in our face, you just sometimes feel overwhelmed and feel like it's a forever thing, but it's not. It's going to cease. And then Ajahn Sucitto suggests asking yourself, is holding on to this want producing suffering in myself or in others? So this is basically looking at the first noble truth, suffering. Then he says, where does this want come from? Of course, the second noble truth is that suffering comes from desire. So looking at that closely. Can I let it go? Well, the third noble truth is saying, yes, cessation is possible if we train our minds. And then how? Asking yourself how. And the Buddha's answer to that is the Noble Eightfold Path. So that's putting our desires or wants in the context of the Four Noble Truths. Okay, then he makes some comments just on desire or wanting, and again emphasizing don't repress it. But before you decide whether to satisfy that want or not, witness what the want is doing to you inside. Is there ease inside, or worry, contentment, or guilt, or what mind state is arising by holding on to this desire, or this wish? Then you can look at, the danger, which is strategy number 2 for letting go of thoughts. And this is what Ahimsa spoke about on Tuesday. Because if we can really feel the hot coal in our hand, then, we don't have to push ourselves to let go of something. We're just going to automatically let go because we we feel the burning of it. We see and feel the danger, so we're not going to go into that. So if there is a danger, I mean, not all desires or wants have dangers to them. Like you want to eat lunch, good thing. eat lunch. So, but anyway, if there is a danger to it, if there's which is the downside to satisfying that want, then maybe we can steer our energies along channels of goodwill or calm that lead to some longer lasting well-being than the quick fix of sensuality that's impermanent and then has this potential downside to it. Then Ajahn Sucitto goes on to talking about listening to our inner voice. What kind of things is our inner voice saying to us? Things like, why bother? Or why shouldn't I have what they have? Or it's my right. Or maybe it's a negative thing like, oh, I can never do this. I'm too weak-willed. And what you have to remember is these are just thoughts. They're not a reflection of some solid inner self. And we can choose not to believe these thoughts. These thoughts are just arising because of past conditioning. We didn't ask for them. They're not ours because we didn't ask for them. They just popped up because of past conditioning. So we don't have to believe in them. So we can learn to develop a steady heart in the face of, what's happening out there in the world. Just be steady. Don't believe everything that comes into your mind. And then this, we can bring all this sort of hurtful thinking into our meditation practice as well. So we can create a lot of pressure, trying to be the perfect meditator instead of just opening up and accepting the reality of where your practice is at the moment. And I sure had to work with this for several years. Things are getting a little better now, but I had a period of time where and I'm talking years, where I had a really horrible sleep disorder. And my meditation practice went from being one that was quite focused to one where I couldn't keep my mind on my breath for more than 2 or 3 breaths at a time. And then just because of tiredness, I'd just be floating off somewhere else. So thank goodness I was long enough in the tooth of being a meditator that I didn't beat myself up or judge myself on that. That was just the reality, the reality of the moment. I wasn't sleeping, I couldn't focus. And so my practice was just being very gentle with myself, very kind, just very gently when I did come to and realize I was wandering, to gently bring myself back for the next 2 or 3 breaths before I wandered again. But it was a several-year practice of just kindness and gentleness. And then Ajahn Sucitto talks about something that's probably all of you have experienced, which is you're sitting in meditation and then you get this strong urge, oh my God, I have to do this. Yeah, laughs in the room, this happens. I've got to do it right now. And he had a lovely analogy. He said, this is like Mara tickling you under the nose with a feather to get you going. And then if you don't respond to that, then he starts poking you with a stick. So he said, instead of getting up and, doing this thing that probably doesn't have to be done that instant. If there's a fire or something, yes, run and put it out. But most of these things can wait till the end of your meditation sitting. So he's suggesting that go below this thought, what's the energy? We talked about this earlier. What's the energy on that? Breathe through it. Like you use your holding technique again. So this is practicing patience and letting go. And then he ends the chapter with a few other comments. Awakening, which is our goal, like to the end of like the mind suffering, is called awakening or enlightenment or liberation. And he said it involves deconstructing this sense of a lack. So full awakening is a permanent state, but we can have glimpses, temporary little glimpses of this in our much earlier in our practice. So these little glimpses of awakening, it gets rid of every moment that says, there's something else I should be doing right now. Instead of just being with what you're doing right now, like you're thinking, you should be doing something else. Or there's something different. There's some different way I should be, or different place I should be right now. So just not being content, not being fully engaged in the present moment, always thinking somewhere else, something else, somehow else. He said awakening also comes when we are free at attempts of gratifying ourselves, like saying, oh, I can do this now. Or, oh, now I've got more, this goodie or that goodie. Oh, now I've arrived. I've made it. So he said these ideas don't make this emotional hunger go away. It doesn't go away through filling ourselves. It resolves through letting go. He said the black hole of not enough is not a hole, it's a block. So what is needed is not filling, but releasing. He goes on to say, be on the lookout for wanting or for trying to prove how good you are. And he makes a quote from Ajahn Chah, who said, being a monastic is knowing about letting go and being unable to do it 90% of the time. So again, repeating what we said several times already, it's not about restraining ourselves. It's something that comes from the heart, relating to experience and the ways mentioned earlier, rather than squeezing ourselves into some mold of how we think we should be. Just slowly we come to a more measured and patient approach, and we don't get hung up on being or not being a certain somebody. So we're transcending rather than repressing wanting. We give up the ideas of who we are and how things should be, and instead breathe patience and kindness into our wants and restlessness. Remember that letting go is dependent on cultivating strengths and clarity, the things that we're training our mind to do in our meditation practice, but also experiencing happiness, contentment, fulfillment from non-sensory sources, from the cultivation of our mind. So that's really important. We're not going to be able to give up the sensory world until that's starting to happen for us. And also developing the 7 factors of awakening. That's really helpful for letting go. So if you want to hear more about the 7 factors of awakening, Ajahn Sona did a sort of a Christmas retreat on this topic. So if you go to his YouTube channel, it's there. And then Ajahn Punadamo did a really good one as well. This was maybe a couple of years ago. But if you just go to his website, his YouTube channel, just go to YouTube and type in Ajahn Punadamo and go to playlists and look for the 7 factors of awakening. And both of those are very good series. Okay, so we can open this up for questions and discussion.
was an awful lot.
Okay,
Time sensitive lady now.
right.
So this is very good for me right now. I started reading the book in the tub the other night, and I find with my lack of rest, it's hard to focus and absorb, but I am getting better rest now.
Good.
Yes, very good. And I'm able to, and now I'm trying to distinguish of what do I let go and what do I fight for?
Mhm.
I mean, I've got a little human now that,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm surprised. I wonder how many people would have given up by now and just walked away,
Mhm.
you know,
Mhm.
but I'm not. And so I'm like, at what point do I, get the cops and come over and just give me my daughter? You have no right. Like those words, you have no right. And this is my, why shouldn't I get what he gets? Like
Mhm.
all those thoughts, right? And I'm like, but
Yeah, you have a responsibility as
like
a
a
mother.
responsibility, and she needs her mom, and so but fighting, but calmly, and it's a very, so that's what I did this morning. Is I went, and very calmly and recorded it, and I can't explain how challenging it is as a mom, having your baby. Like it's just, I'm very proud of myself, like I wanted to have a lot of revenge, but really just been sitting with it. But yeah, I'm still kind of working on that, trying to find that equanimity of how much action do I take and how much do I relinquish and sit with it.
Yeah, and this kind of thing is not saying that we don't take action where action is needed, but the more equanimity we can bring to that action, the better, right? Because often if we're storming or whatever, then people just shut us off, right? So so we need to take action where action is needed, but yeah, the more equanimity you can bring to it, the better.
Well, not the cops. So. Thank you. Yeah.
Lori, you want to pass her?
Thanks.
Whoops. That's wrong. Yeah.
Here, can you bring it, Lauren?
Oh, it's all tangled.
It's like it used to reach last week. No thing. Great. Excellent.
I think that's a pretty hefty lesson. You have to let go mentally and physically and spiritually. It's a big combination to recognize all those steps and put them into one. And, I just went through the letting go physically of my things that I moved and downsized. But I was sitting there last night and I thought, sure, I have a lot of stuff. So that's for me a big process. I can get it mentally, I can get it in my head, all the facts and it all makes sense. But then that real letting go, we were talking about that one time about my headaches when I came and depression and letting go and how it changed my life in a big way. So I'm trying to pay attention to what I'm doing. When the thought comes, I know it's not doing anything for me that causes stress. Let the mind go, and then I just feel I have to anchor it in my heart, and then I can let go. I can simplify my life, and it gets me out of my head. And that's this whole connection. Like when I was away just recently, and my heart just broke open. It's I let go of perceptions, judging, and I don't know how to say it, but that's changed my life too, because I think that conversation was the first real conversation that I ever had about thoughts going on, and oh God, what am I going to do? That wasn't even there to let go of. It was gone, and I just came from my heart, and I don't know, when you can get all those things out of the way, it's quite revealing, quite remarkable. It feels great.
Yeah, I think you were experiencing the fruits of your practice. Beautiful. Anybody in the Zoom room wanting to say anything?
Okay, I can never resist talking. I should let go of that. No, recently, with my changed life circumstances, I am free now to do what I want when I want. And recently I found myself blaming myself for not spending every minute of the day studying the teachings of the Buddha. I find myself thinking, well, you know, Mary could do this. And why is my practice not up there with Mary, with Sanghamitta's? And this morning I woke up with the thought, I am not Mary Dumka. I am Leslie Grant Lewis, and I am who I am. And if I choose to be preoccupied with householder tasks more than my role model and the person I admire in this practice, well, I guess that's the way it is, and I just have to let go of the craving to be a super Buddhist. But it's hard. Maybe someday I'll be where you are, Sanghamitta, but it isn't going to be for a few lifetimes. Thank you for your example.
Yeah, well, I should clarify some wrong assumptions. I don't think I spend every moment of 24 hours studying Buddhism. I actually have a fairly varied life.
I know, but maybe
but
next
yeah,
lifetime I'll get to your point, your level though.
Actually, Leslie, I think that you're touching on something that's really, really important. And I was sensing from Sanghamitta's talk, this energy of wanting and this energy, this black hole, that was really powerful. This black hole of not good enough. What I feel like you're touching on, Leslie, is that we can just drag that into our spiritual life. And then our spiritual life looks a lot like the rest of our life. It's a to-do list, and it's all the ways that we're failing. And the religious life, the spiritual life, really, wow, you can really fail, like so, like amazingly, like really, like it's not hard to not measure up. So yeah, I was sitting here like, oh my gosh, you know, because she even hears me talk about it. Well, I can't really teach this because I'm not that, and I can't do this because I'm not that, and it's just more of the same worldly thinking, and it just hurts us. It just hurts us. And I think Marilyn's showing, you know, touching in on, wow, she had this interaction that was pretty laden, you know, family and lots of preconceived ideas and judgment and and something broke through, and it was really amazing experience. Yeah, I so appreciate what you're sharing, but like, hopefully you can do what you did this morning. Just that's not me, and I'm in this life, and I want to work with that. Yeah. Sarah, did you want to say something?
I just want to say thank you for the sentence, Sanghamitta, that you said. It's only a thought arising from past conditioning. Because I've been saying to myself for a long time, I can't do this and I can't do that because I have no self-discipline. It's this thing. And I thought that was truly me. I'm this person with no self-discipline. If it's just a thought and it's not me, boy,
you
that
didn't
opens
even
a lot of
ask
doors.
for it.
A lot of doors opening. Yeah, I could do this, that, and the other thing because maybe I do have a little shred of self-discipline. It's a little beginning today, and I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, Ajahn Brahm has this book, Sarah, Who Ordered This Truckload of Dung? And he's seriously talking about, I mean, it's based on one story, you know, the book is lovely. It's 108 wisdom stories from many, you know, many sources. But there's one story, Who Ordered This Truckload of Dung? And it's literally our thoughts. Like, where did that come from? Like, you know, for me, anatta, like not self, all I need to do is look at a photo album of me in my 20s. It's like, what was I thinking? Like what I'm wearing, like there, you know, whoa, that is not me.
We have that book in our library the next time you come to visit.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah.
It's a small book, fast read. Anything else before our closing? So everybody right now can just let go of trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
Can I just share?
Please.
Please.
I'm recently in a group with women that were looking at a book called Creativity and Following the Monastic Values of Creativity. It's just been fantastic. But one of the interesting things last night we did was in Zen Buddhism, it's this idea of wabi-sabi, which is sort of seeing the beauty in broken things. And so I feel like it's this interesting concept when we're trying to have all our sense desires and looking at beauty, and we can just see the impermanence of it, the brokenness of it, the incompleteness of it. And I think that feels like, to me, is like letting go and training ourselves to see the beauty and the impermanence of just everything. The dirty snow and the rabbit-proof fence that a deer broke through, and yeah, just the constantly dirty car that drives me crazy. And but then I look out in the yard and, you know, there's a statue of Kuan Yin and the Buddha and beautiful art from a friend of ours and a sign that says "You are loved." So just want to share that.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to end with karuna, compassion. So first of all, bring to mind someone you know who has great physical or mental suffering. And while being aware of their particular difficulties, direct these compassionate phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Now send the phrases to yourself. May I be free of pain and sorrow. May I find peace. Now bring to mind someone who's been very supportive of you and send the phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Now bring to mind a neutral person, someone that you don't have strong love or hate feelings towards. And send the phrases to them. May you be free of your pain and sorrow. May you find peace. Now bring to mind someone that you have a difficult relationship with and send the phrases to them. May you too be free of your pain and sorrow. May you too find peace. May all beings be free of pain and sorrow. May all beings find peace. Remember that all beings face great potential suffering no matter how fortunate their immediate circumstances may be. This meditation does not eliminate suffering. What we are doing is being able to acknowledge suffering, to open to it and respond to it with a tenderness of heart, which allows us to join with all beings and realize we are never alone. May the merit of our practice be shared with all sentient beings, named and unnamed. Agnes, 2, 3, 4, stop, Blair, please. May all beings be well and happy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
See you next week.